What's going on? Welcome to Tech with Sean, and today we're taking a look at the PC gaming experience. Now, that's a pretty nebulous term. People say PC gaming like, all of PC gaming is like this. But in reality, you could have a vastly different experience based on what kind of setup you have. Today, we're putting a budget system, this Dell Optiplex that we've upgraded with a GTX 1650 that's designed for 1080p gaming, up against my own personal computer, and this is a high-end custom computer with a RTX 2080 Ti, and it's designed for 1440p high refresh rate gaming. Now, both of these are pretty decent for what they're designed to do, but the experiences they're designed to provide are not necessarily the same. So we're going to test for very high settings 1440p on this computer, and we're going to test at more moderate settings 1080p on the Optiplex that we've upgraded, and we'll see for ourselves how different the PC gaming experiences really are. Alright, now to get a baseline comparison on both systems, we're going to run 3D Mark Firestrike. You can see here the 9900K 2080 Ti system is turning in much higher performance than the other system. We're looking at about, triple or quadruple the performance at least. It's like 30 frames per second versus 130. So that's a pretty wide gulf of performance. Here's the CPU section, and again, same story. It's more than double the frames per second on the high-end system. So here's the results, and it's 27,000 something to 7,000 something, and with a difference that big, we're definitely going to see some differences in the live gameplay results. Alright, now here is the first game we're going to take a look at, and that's Grand Theft Auto 5. So we have it running at 1080p on some medium-ish settings on the base spec, and then higher settings and 1440p on the high-performance system. You can see here that at 1080p and more conservative settings, that Optiplex is hanging in really well. It's pushing about 100 frames per second in some of these scenes, and it's never dropping below 60. So the expensive system with the 9900K and 2080 Ti, you can tell it does look better, and it's running at a higher frame rate, but I don't think that you would be too disappointed if you were playing the Optiplex system, because even though it's 1080p, look at that frame rate. It's, that's a really solid experience, and if you weren't looking at them side by side, you wouldn't probably be thinking about it. You'd just be playing the game and enjoying it. So GTA 5 is one of the older games we're going to take a look at today, but I think that the lower spec rig held up pretty admirably in this comparison. Okay, next up is Far Cry 5, and we have it at 1080p normal on the Optiplex and 1440p Ultra on the custom rig. And you can see in this game there's quite a big difference. We have the Optiplex dropping below 60 frames per second, even though it's running at lower resolution and lower settings. On the other hand, the 2080 Ti is having no problem pushing well over 100 frames per second. And that's even at 1440p and at higher settings, the ultra settings actually. So it looks like this is one where you really get what you pay for. If it were me and I was playing on the lower spec system, I would probably just maybe drop the resolution scale to 0.9 and see if that did anything. And if it didn't, then I would just turn it back to 1080p and turn off VSync and just forget about the frame drops. But you can see here the average, we averaged 133 on the high end and 62 on the Optiplex, but the minimum FPS is really what would get you. Up next we have Forza Horizon 4. Now this is running at high settings on 1080p and then on 1440p Ultra on the other system. And you can see here that both of them held up really well. We have the high-end ones really taking advantage of your monitor. It's really pushing over 100 frames per second and getting well up to the 144 area. And then the Optiplex, it would totally be saturating a 1080p 60Hz screen if that's what you were playing on it with. And who knows, if you had one that you could overclock to 75 frames per second, that would work. And really, even if you had a 144 frames per second screen, you could drop a couple of the options down to normal from high, and then you'd be pushing up closer to that 100 frames per second mark on even the budget system. This game isn't too picky on the CPU, and it really is all about the GPU. I think that's because it was an Xbox game, and so it had the lower powered processor in mind. So the quad core doesn't hold it back at all in this. So I would say either of these systems, you're going to have a really good time playing Forza Horizon 4. It's a pretty flexible game. Alright, now we have a really tough one. This is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I think this might push our little Optiplex to its limits. We're going to be running it at medium settings, 1080p, and then on the high-end system, again we're running it at very high and 1440p. So starting out our benchmark, and you might notice the afterburner overlay is flickering in and out. Now I have both systems up side by side here, but on the original recording it was flip-flopping back and forth between the left and right side of the screen. For whatever reason, it did not want to be in the right corner on this game. And if you look, you'll see that that i7-3770 is pretty much pegged at 99-100% usage the whole time. I don't know if that might have something to do with it. I ran the benchmark again without Afterburner on, and the differences were negligible. So I'm not really sure what was going on, but it's pretty indicative of how hard it's pushing that system, if you ask me. The temperatures surprisingly weren't that bad playing this on the little Optiplex. You'd figure with that aftermarket card and that little low-powered system, you'd have problems, but I think because it's a lower powered system designed for a lower draw, that it doesn't generate as much heat. But you'll see here it didn't even get up to 60 frames per second on the average, and it dipped all the way down to 25. So if it were me and I were playing it on there, I would probably just lock the frame rate to 30 so you get a smooth experience. Okay, and then the next one we got here, this is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, the settings are kind of a mixed bag on these, but they're more towards the low end. Actually, they're pretty low on the 1650. I just have the anti-stropic filtering turned up a little bit. And then we have it at higher settings, 1440p for the 2080 Ti, because that's not really much of a problem for it. Okay, then dropping here into the benchmark, you can see we're getting about double or better on the frame rate for the 2080 Ti system, and that's pretty much par for the course for most of the games we've looked at. But taking a look over at the 1650 side, that's not a terrible experience. You know, if you played this on PS4 or Xbox, it was a 30 frames per second game, and so you can see you're getting, you know, about double the performance on the 1650. And even when it drops below 60 in some of the spots, I'll tell you that playing this on that PC felt a lot smoother than playing it on the Xbox One. So yeah, you can see here the high-end system is still just creaming it even in this really demanding area, whereas the 1650 is dropping below 60 frames per second. And the GPU usage is peaked right at 98% pretty much all the time there. Really on both systems, but... And this is in San Denis when all this is going on in the benchmark, so this is pretty much the most demanding area of the game. Most of the time when you're out running around, the 1650 can keep up no problem. But yeah, there is a definite difference in performance here in Red Dead Redemption 2. And going forward, you know, more games are going to want more GPU and more CPU cores, so you can only expect this gap to widen. And one more bit I wanted to throw in was Minecraft RTX. Now this is a newer update to an older game, but you know, this is something where unless you have an RTX card, you're not going to be able to experience this. So that's something you're going to have to think about on your budget system too. The new consoles coming out, they're all going to have ray tracing, and whether or not that's going to be, you know, a priority for you, that's one thing, but it is something you're going to have to consider. Granted, you're not going to be able to get a ray tracing card at this point in time on this kind of budget, so that is a kind of a decision you have to make one way or the other up front. But damn, it looks really good. I was pretty impressed by this update. I don't usually play Minecraft very much, but I had some fun walking around and checking out the effects in here. Alright, well, if you ask me, I think they both did a pretty good job of what they were designed to do. This obviously looks better and, you know, has higher refresh rate, higher resolution and all that, but it costs a lot more. You're basically looking at this plus a cheap used car to get one of these. So it's, you know, what's it worth to you? You can obviously have the very best experience on PC, but you can also have a really good experience for just, you know, the price of a console or not much more. That's the beauty of PC gaming, really. It's not like one super awesome experience that everybody has. It's that everybody has the experience that they want or that they can afford or is best for their current situation, you know? Do you want 4K? Do you want high refresh? Do you want both? Do you not care about either? Do you like ultra wide? Do you like mouse and keyboard? Do you like using a controller? Do you like, you know, free online games? Do you like MMOs? There's everything on PC, and you can do whatever you want, and whatever hardware you want, you can run whatever games that hardware will run. So, long story short, both PCs did good at what they were designed to do, and both are pretty fun because, in the end of the day, they're both PC gaming. So, thanks for watching along. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video.